When I would get a script, I would look at it and I would read it and I would say, who cares? What are they talking about? Who cares what lining somebody has in a jacket? Who cares if they use real turkey for a sandwich? Why are they so picky? And then the actors would read it and it would be funny and I would laugh and I would say, okay, I just don't get it, I guess. Fortunately, the network guys didn't get it either, and they left us alone.
The first thing I remember at the Chinese restaurant is I remember the exact restaurant I was in with Larry. It was Genghis Cohen's on Fairfax, and we were waiting for a table, and I remember him writing the idea down.
You get 23 minutes to do the show, whatever. Let's just have them wait 23 minutes for a table.
I read that script, and I went, nothing happens. Am I missing pages? Literally, they go to the restaurant, they stand around, they can't get a table. Nothing happens. Is this, are they trying to save money?
NBC, when we suggested that we wanted to do this one set idea where the gang just waits for a table the entire show and never gets it, that they thought that was very static and not appealing, and they didn't want us to write it. They didn't want us to film it, and after we filmed it, they held it back and didn't run it until towards the end of the season because they were so sure that this was going to really be one of the real bombs of the season.
I knew the network was up in arms about this episode. They thought this was a betrayal. They thought this was just sacrilege. How could we, a struggling nothing show like this that nobody's watching, how dare you assholes try and pull something off like this?
I wasn't surprised that NBC wasn't crazy about that show because, you know, not only was our show unlike any other shows, but now this show was like, within that context, this show was just like crazy extreme. It was bizarre. It's a bizarre show.
But to their credit, the only thing that they said was, we completely disagree with this idea, but if you want to do it, go ahead. And I thought that's all you can ask for, is they gave us the shot.
I feel like just walking over there and taking some food off of somebody's plate.
I'll tell you what, there's $50 in it for you if you do it.
What do you mean?
You walk over to that table, you pick up an egg roll, you don't say anything, you eat it, say thank you very much, wipe your mouth, walk away, I give you $50.
Should I do it, George?
For $50? I'd put my face in this soup and blow.
Turns out that became one of the episodes that really put the show into another category.
I didn't get it. And I remember fighting that episode, looking at the cut of the episode, and it was funny, but I really felt, you know, Jerry, Larry, doesn't something have to happen in this show? And of course, I fueled for them all about it's the show where nothing happens.
Well, what's the show about?
It's about nothing.
No story?
No, forget the story.
You gotta have a story.
Who says you gotta have a story? Remember when we were waiting for that table in that Chinese restaurant that time? That could be a TV show.
One of the turning points in the writing for me came with the busboy episode, when somehow the busboy character met Elaine's boyfriend in the building. The circumstances just led for those two. There was a path for those two to get together, unconsciously, but that's what happened in the building, and they had a big fight.
Hey, watch where you're going. You almost knocked my head off.
Hey, why don't you watch where you're going, okay? Because you bumped into me.
Who do you think you're talking to, pal?
Get your hands off me.
You go to hell.
And that left an impression on me, how those two stories really collided like freight trains. And I remember thinking that I really like how that happened. I hope that could happen again, or somehow, or maybe I could even make that happen again.
And I remember thinking, this is a good thing to continue.
There was another aspect to that as well, that I never like to see actors unhappy on a set, especially the principals. you know, they're coming in every day. I wanted the actors to be happy.
And so we started a chart. This is how little we knew about how to write a sitcom. We started a chart and we put Jerry, George, Kramer, and Elaine on this chart. And for each story, we would check off if one of them had a story. And we had to make sure after that each person had a story in the show.
I tried to give everybody a lot of stuff to do, and sometimes that would mean doing 4 separate stories and juggling these balls and trying to bring them all together somehow.
You know, the idea that you have 2 guys who've never written a show being run by a network executive that had never had a show, leading to a show that has a unique and unusual feel. This is a model that all the networks subsequently ignored and never did again, except for HBO. I think HBO, I don't know if they really knew that that's how our show evolved, but that's a network that hires people that they like and says that's the end of their job. We like you, do what you think you should do, and it leads to much more distinctive programming.
An all-new Seinfeld is back. 1 part sitcom, 1 part stand-up.
You ever see these operating theaters that they have with like stadium seating? You don't want them doing anything to you that makes other doctors go, I have to see this.
The critics call it a winner.
I left some books in her apartment.
Did you read them?
Yeah.
What do you need them for?
I don't know, they're books.
What do you need it for after you read it?
Seinfeld on NBC Wednesday, 9:30, 8:30 Central.
Have you reread those books yet, by the way?
The night that Seinfeld was going to premiere in '91 on Wednesday night, we bombed Baghdad.
Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait.
I remember that night that we were supposed to premiere and the war started and we didn't go on. And I remember everybody being very disturbed by it and me not being able to understand why people were upset. I thought, well, it's going to go on. What's the difference?
My mother called the local NBC offices and said, look, you don't have that much information yet. You're repeating yourselves. Take a break, a half hour, say 8:30 to 9, and put on whatever you were going to put on, and then come back with an update. Update us, but don't. She tried to schnorr her way through the war.
I know that we weren't doing well in the ratings for that second season. We were no longer behind Cheers.
Yeah, we would always lose to Jake and the Fat Man. I always felt we would get closer, and then he would get fatter, and he would pull away again. It was very tough competition.
I didn't even understand ratings, to tell you the truth, and to this day, I really don't understand them. I never really bothered. People have told it to me, but I guess I have so little interest in it that it didn't really matter to me. I just knew that I didn't want to be a hit as a result of following a good show.
I used to say that the reason the second half of Jake and the Fat Man is so much stronger is because that's when he runs after the crooks, and everybody wants to see that.
And when the show was eventually moved from Wednesday night to Thursday night behind Cheers, I spoke to a television reporter, and he said, well, you must be thrilled about this move. And I said to him, if they weren't watching on Wednesday night, I don't want them watching on Thursday night. And I was serious, I didn't.
I do remember Larry. This was a very good thing. I mean, we were still a relatively obscure show. And suddenly we were going to have a prime spot where people could at least sample us and see if they liked the show. It was almost unfindable prior to that. And Larry was so upset. He was just pissed. He just, I don't want to be Cheers' little brother. that was his big stuff. I don't want to be Cheers' little brother.
I was really I was looking at this show and I so believed it was going to work and could work. And I just loved the unique and original chemistry and the relationship that Jerry and Elaine had.
At some point during that second season, I began to hear from NBC very strenuously about getting Jerry and Elaine together.
I was beating the drum saying their relationship, when they're together, when there are real stakes in their relationship, I believe that is something that the audience can attach themselves to.
And they kept persisting, and I was very, very reluctant and resistant, and I wasn't doing it. And then I remembered something from my life that I thought would make a really funny show, even if they had never said that to me. And once I remembered that incident from my past, in which I'm sorry to say I did try and work out a deal where I could actually have this this physical relationship with someone, and yet not have it get to the point where we were boyfriend and girlfriend. And the only way we could do that was if we followed these particular rules, and that became the deal episode.
Because this is very good.
And that would be good.
That would be good too. The idea is to combine the this and the that. But this cannot be disturbed.
Yeah, we just want to take this and add that.
We thought that people weren't going to believe that these two were just going to continue to hang out. We thought the idea of them just being friends was stretching credibility, and we thought we had to put them back together.
So, what are you guys going to do today?
This and that.
And the other.
Boy, I really liked the two of you much better when you weren't a couple.
I think we thought that that's what it was going to be after we shot the deal, which was the last episode of that season.
My thinking never went into another season. I just figured, well, that's it. Why would they pick up the show? The ratings aren't good. I didn't think that they would pick up the show, so okay, so that's how the show ended. It didn't really matter to me. We weren't on long enough to go out with some big splash ending. It didn't really matter. But then the show got picked up again for yet another season. This time, 22. 22.
I don't tend to worry, no matter what. You know, Larry was certainly worrying enough for the two of us. I think as long as he's worried, he's thinking about it, he'll worry. And so I don't have to worry.
There was never a hint of panic.
This time, and I am dead honest here, real, actual tears out of my eyes, crying. I cried on my bed, cried at the prospect of coming up with 22 more of these things. How in God's name is that going to happen?
So it was just from there to there. We went from a couple of bums to industry titans, right across First Avenue and 78th Street. And that's the story.